The Sicilian Regional Law Number 7 of 2016 didn't just add regulations, it fundamentally transformed commercial diving from an oft improvised, high-risk profession into a strictly controlled sector, explicitly distinguishing it from certified safety.
That's right. Before this specific law and the subsequent decree of the President of the Sicilian region, number 31 of 2018, the situation across Italy and Europe was incredibly fragmented. You'd find foreign certifications that weren't always equivalent, and training pathways were often quite lacking. This created a real vacuum, particularly at a national level in Italy, where professional diving activity was largely unregulated. Port authorities had to rely on ministerial decrees from the 1970s, like the well-known 1979 decree for local service divers.
So, Sicily, with its extensive coastline and crucial maritime industry, effectively stepped in to fill that void. The establishment of the Electronic Register of Commercial Diving at the Department of Labour seems like the central piece of this. What makes this register such a significant turning point beyond just being a bureaucratic requirement?
It's much more than just bureaucracy. The obligation to register acts as a crucial filter. It ensures that anyone going beneath the water surface, whether they're welding, inspecting, or assembling metal structures, has passed a rigorous screening. This means competence and safety are prioritized. For many long-standing operators, it presented a stark choice. Either prove their skills and align with the new standards, or find themselves outside the legal market entirely.
And this must have had a huge impact on how divers are trained. I imagine there was a proliferation of private courses before, perhaps adapted from recreational diving certifications. How did the new regulation address that specific issue?
It changed the rules of the game entirely. The inclusion of commercial diving as a regulated training in the Directory of Professional Qualifications of the Department of Vocational Training was key. Previously, many private courses existed, often derived from recreational certifications with only a few technical notions. A civilian diving instructor certification simply doesn't equip someone to work with divers' helmets, surface supply umbilicals, or decompression chambers. Now, to become a commercial diver, courses must adhere to an approved regional standard. This includes a specific number of hours dedicated to workplace safety, maritime legislation, hyperbaric medicine, and essential underwater welding and cutting techniques. Completing these pathways gives you a recognized qualification, which then opens the door to the electronic register.
This rigorous approach sounds commendable for safety, but it raises questions about mobility. If you're a diver trained in another Italian region, or even abroad, and you want to work on a Sicilian construction site, do these regulations create a barrier?
Absolutely. That's one of the central points of debate. While some other Italian regions have recognized courses, not all possess specific legislation and a binding electronic register like Sicily's. Internationally, you have well-known standards from bodies like the British HSE or IDSA, the International Diving Schools Association. However, not all foreign certificates automatically meet the precise requirements of DPRS 31/2018. Many international certifications are issued by private entities without the direct oversight of a ministry or a government agency, making them unregulated in the eyes of Sicilian law. The Sicilian law demands traceability of the training pathway and public validation. If a foreign certificate lacks the same level of controls, specific medical examinations, or certified practical hours in the water, the department won't recognize it for registration.
So, the Sicilian legislator is essentially trying to stem a tide of inconsistency, primarily to protect human life, given the significant risks involved in diving. But surely international trade associations would argue their standards are cutting edge. This highlights a tension, doesn't it, between local legal rigor and the practicalities of a global labor market?
Precisely.
regional legislators had to strike a balance between market openness and their fundamental duty of prevention. When an offshore construction site operates in Sicilian jurisdictional waters, civil and criminal liability in the event of an accident falls under Italian law. Relying on foreign certifications of dubious origin, perhaps from countries with less stringent workplace safety regulations, would expose companies and clients to incalculable risks. The electronic register acts as a shield. To be included, it's not enough just to present a piece of paper. You must demonstrate the equivalence of your qualifications, compliance with workloads, and the conformity of practical training. This ensures that every worker employed in Sicily, regardless of their background, understands and adheres to the same emergency procedures and operational protocols.
The implications for individual workers must be profound then. Those who have invested in previously unrecognized certifications now face retraining, creating both a controlled supply chain and, as you said, new barriers to entry.
It's certainly a complex transition for many professionals. Those who've operated for years in what was essentially a regulatory gray area now have to adapt. The inclusion process requires attested industrial diving hours, recorded in individual logbooks and countersigned by competent authorities. We're not talking about recreational dives in tropical seas. It's about evaluating time spent in low visibility conditions, performing complex mechanical tasks. For those with unregulated qualifications, evaluation committees examine their resumes and determine if supplementary modules from accredited bodies are needed to bridge any training gaps.
It seems that the rigor of Law 7/2016 and DPRS 31/2018 really does establish a comprehensive model for bringing order to what was a very fragmented sector, effectively removing commercial diving from improvisation.
It does. It protects operators through clear rules, stringent requirements, and an electronic register that certifies the actual technical competence of those who work in such demanding underwater environments.
If you found this discussion insightful, consider sharing this episode with other professionals in the sector.